Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I'm Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest VR games to ever come to the Quest 2, and that's Into the Radius. Now when I say biggest, that includes game length, complexity, and overall immersion. Now this won't be a full review because I've never actually completed this title. I've played it on PC through various stages of the beta, and now I'm currently playing the Quest 2 version. Now I will be letting you guys know if this title is your style, because for some, it's exactly what they're looking for, but definitely not for everyone. It's almost a love it or hate it type of title. So let's begin with, what is Into the Radius? Into the Radius is a story-driven horror-themed survival title set in a dystopian, anomaly-ridden, creature-infested world. It's available for $29.99 on both PC VR and the Quest 2, and it features over 20 hours of content. Into the Radius has you engaging in missions centered around the world's anomalies, battling shadow-like creatures, scavenging for materials, making sure your equipment remains in good condition, and just simply surviving. Now it's very likely that you may love or hate the overall elements of this game. We finally got a highly complex, lengthy, story-driven shooter title on the Quest, but some may find it too complex, won't handle the suspense or horror very well, or may feel like it's too slowly paced. Now I will break down each of those complaints, but also go over what makes this game so special. First up is that complexity and unforgiving nature. Into the Radius is filled with lots of complex mechanics. When it comes to weapons, not only do you need to cock the gun and set the safety, but you also need to manually load bullets into your magazines. Unlike most games where a fresh magazine for the exact gun you're using continually appears from your magic pouch, Into the Radius requires you to find spare magazines and keep them loaded for when things go down. There are a limited amount of items you can store on your body, which also means there's a limited amount of spare magazines you'll have available. The last thing you want to be doing in the middle of a fight is looking through your inventory system. Struggling to find an extra magazine in a cluttered backpack is a quick way to get yourself killed. You also need to be strategic about what items you are keeping readily available. Do you want a spare medical kit on hand or an additional throwing knife? But those are the same slots for flashlights and artifact trackers. Now this complexity also overlaps with the game's unforgiving nature. Accidentally lose one of those magazines during a rough encounter? Well, that's one less active reload at your disposal. It's the same story if you accidentally drop your favorite weapon and don't know where it went. This isn't Medal of Honor or Sniper Elite VR where guns just magically work their way back onto your shoulder or into your holster. You really need to pay attention to what you're doing in this game. The same thing goes for things like gun magazines. You definitely want a few spares on your waist, but if you grab the wrong magazine, it's obviously not going to fit in your gun. And being familiar with guns will put you at an advantage in this game because you'll know what caliber bullet to use for each weapon. Now, further adding to the ammunition complexity, there is specialty ammo like subsonic, which has lower velocity bullets that won't alert as many enemies. And on top of all of this, there's a hunger system and weapon maintenance system. If you don't take proper care of your guns, they might begin to jam on you. It'll definitely take some time to get used to all of these mechanics and controls, and at first it might feel awkward or even janky, but overall it's a great system. Now, I know a lot of people who love this attention to detail and real-life simulating complexity, but for others it's just too much and even cuts into the game's pacing. Now, pacing is another love it or hate it topic. You will spend a ton of time just picking up items, placing them in your backpack, and preparing your gear. This slows down the game significantly, but slow suspense is exactly what this title is all about. If you're a fast-paced, high-adrenaline shooter fan, this most likely is not the title for you. This game is basically the opposite of Fracked. No bright colors, over-the-top action, or guns blazing. Instead, it's a creepy, tension-filled, desolate world wrapped in shades of gray. Rather than taking down swarms of enemy, your best option is to avoid them at all costs. And this game of cat and mouse may slow down the pacing even further. But probably the biggest love it or hate it element of this title is the horror theme. Some people just can't handle horror or suspense in VR, and while Into the Radius isn't outright scary, the combination of unforgiving mechanics, creepy entities, and random spooky sounds culminate into a pretty high-tension title. Traveling by day when you can clearly see everything is already pretty freaky, but at night it just becomes a straight up nope for me. Now those were some reasons why you might love or hate Into the Radius, but on top of that it does a lot of special things that you just don't see in any other games, starting with the fact that it's intriguing and quite unique. A world that has quite literally gone to hell by some freakish anomaly looming overhead, where everyone has lost their memories and it looks like not only is the world now populated by monsters, but there's also crystalline mannequins everywhere. It's intriguing conceptually, visually, and mechanically, as the anomaly isn't just show and actively impacts the gameplay. You have a timer letting you know when the next anomaly wave will hit, and when it does, you'll be randomly teleported and the game world will reset. This is just a really unique element that plays well with the game's story. And that storyline is actually pretty deep, being delivered either by cassette tapes you find throughout the world, additional narration whenever you encounter a specific entity, and some random handwritten notes. Now, not only is the world itself quite intriguing, but it's also fairly large and can make exploration quite rewarding. There's secrets to find, more information on the storyline, and plenty of goodies to scavenge. It feels like there's a risk versus reward mentality, and you never know what exactly you're gonna find around each corner. And every one of those corners is filled with a lot of detail. All of those complex mechanics I mentioned earlier also deliver an insane amount of immersive detail. VR, after all, is all about immersion, and there is nothing more realistic than true-to-life mechanics. Into the Radius will make you feel like you're truly living in this horrific world, with its story to discover, secrets to find, and spooky moments around every corner. So in the end, most people will either love or hate Into the Radius. Items like its horror theme, complex mechanics, and unforgiving nature are major pros for some, but cons for others. If you want some fast-paced jump-in action, this is not the game for you, but if you enjoy exploring, finding secrets, and a high-tension level, Into the Radius is the best option out there on the Quest 2 right now. Now, if you're interested in my personal opinion, it's just not the right game for me. While I truly appreciate its uniqueness and complexity, it's not exactly my style. And like I said, I won't be giving this a review score today because I have not completed the title yet, but from what I've already experienced, this title would be heading towards a really high score, even though it's not my preferred style of game. Okay, everybody, that was my Into the Radius coverage. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And as always, I'll see you guys on next time.